32 years ago, a self-reliance committee headed by Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam drew up a roadmap for India to reduce defense imports from 70% to 30% by 2005. Now it's 2024 and we are still off target. With 11% of the total global arms imports, India has been the world's largest arms importer for close to 3 decades. But the good news is that for the first time, we are seeing the most concerted drive at indigenization. The government's Atmanirbhar Bharat drive aims not just to make India self-sufficient in defense requirements, but also turn us into a major defense exporter. Now, joining me to discuss this arming Bharat strategy are Air Marshal Anil Chopra, DG of the Center for Air Power Studies, Mr. Ashok Atluri, CEO of Zen Technologies Limited, and my friend Defense Analyst Major Gaurav Arya. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Air Marshal Chopra, I want to start by asking you this. We're going to see a lot of indigenous defense hardware on display at the 26th January parade tomorrow. What is the most significant step to your mind that the government has taken to make Atmanirbhar Bharat a success? And what is the one step that it needs to take to realize our dreams of making it a self-sufficient country in defense equipment?
I must mention that we have started this Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat actions only in the last 4 or 5 years with the utter seriousness that was required. You know, we are the largest importer, we are the 4th largest military, but the gap between us and China, which is the 3rd largest, is fairly huge. Now, as far as, you know, in tomorrow's parade, we are going to have the Tejas flying for the first time in large formation of L shape. Are going to fly. We're also going to have C295. We are going to have the LH, the Rudra, and the LCH. All are flying. All these platforms, you know, have been built in India or are being built in India. So there is a need. We, of course, will see the BrahMos, which we have been seeing for some years on display, the Pinaka, you know, rocket launchers. But I must tell you that we still have some distance to go. There are some very, very niche technologies in LCA. Nearly 50% of the aircraft is still imported. The key components like the engine, radar, we took initially the Israeli help, but now we are building here. Air-to-air missiles, we have done fairly well, but in electronic warfare and some other avionics, we are still dependent with outsiders. We will never make ejection seats in India. So there are many areas in the LCA program itself that we have to keep our distance. You know, numbers built, we have only built 34. You remember 2001 was the first flight, 2015 the squadron got inducted, but numbers have to come up. Though now a 3rd line has been set up at Nasik, but till,
there's a long way to go, Air Marshal Chopra. There's a long road ahead, Gaurav. And you know the fact, Gaurav, that we're not seeing World War III yet, but the world is at war. And out of the multiple conflicts, 3 countries are actively involved in those. There's Russia, Israel, the United States. 3 of these countries are among our top 5 defense suppliers. How scary is that to you? And does this call for like an urgent requirement for Atmanirbhar Bharat, addition to what the government is doing now?
First of all, Sandeep, thank you for inviting me. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think this is a cause of much concern and it should be treated like an emergency. Because one of the lessons that we have learned from the Russia-Ukraine war is this, that unless you have your own defense manufacturing base, unless you have your own, let us say your own supply chain, if I may put it that way, there is no way you're going to fight a war, because for a very long time, at least the teaching in the army was that future wars are going to be short, they're going to be brutal, they're going to finish in a matter of weeks, if not days, and then you're back home. And that is how most of our exercises are even today. On the 7th day, red land and blue land are shaking hands and you have chai coffee and you're done. So, now what they have taught us, and also this conflict, you know, Israel and Hamas, what it has taught us is that wars will stretch on and on. It's going to happen.
You can't decide the duration of a conflict.
You can't decide, absolutely. You can't decide the duration of the war, and people are going to let you down. For example, take the case of Ukraine. Ukraine was flying high. Zelensky was these many $1 billion from the European Union, these many billions of dollars from America, and these weapons, and suddenly it comes to a stop because maybe the Senate is not too happy, or Congress wants you to take a relook, or they're re-evaluating the strategy and they're saying it's a stalemate.
Yes.
They don't have anything to fight with.
Right.
And they think Zelensky has gone, on record to saying that we'll be massacred, we'll lose this war.
Absolutely.
So this is our biggest, I think this is an emergency, absolutely.
This is an
Nothing
emergency.
Short of it.
And Gaurav, an emergency, and you've mentioned two very important points. The Russia-Ukraine war, the fact that it's an emergency, and there's one aspect of that war, Gaurav, we've discussed this in the past, the rise of drone warfare, and it's come in such a scale that it's literally taken us all by surprise and indeed by shock. The kind of employment of drones in swarms, and literally they're talking of tens of thousands of drones being fielded by either side. And I want to bring in Ashok here because Ashok is literally at the center of this whole drone warfare business, and he makes these counter-drone systems. Ashok, welcome to the News9 Plus show. What is it that you think, this emergency that Gaurav is talking about, the Russia-Ukraine war has told us that you can't decide the duration of conflicts, and drones are going to be a very critical aspect of that. You're in the middle of this entire drone business, offensive drones and counter-drone systems. What is it that we need to do to prepare ourselves for this kind of drone warfare that the adversary might choose to inflict on us?
I think two things at the policy level that the government took very big, and it was we that proposed to Mr. Parikar for IDDM, by Indian IDDM should be there, which focus not on manufacturing but the design and development of the product. And when we first proposed much earlier than that, in fact, we have been talking about since 2003, 2004 IDDM. The remark we got from the industry, forget the government, was "Pehle chalna seekho, fir baad mein udne ki baat karna." And the fact was, we were saying, boss, we have filed 160 global patents for all, but they would never hear. Pehle make in India ki baat karenge, design ki baat karenge. Fortunately, Parikar came and he caught it like this. Two things he caught from us. One was IDDM, second was make to where the industry would fund the development. And actually, when I proposed this, he asked me, are you okay? Because everybody is saying 80-20 may 100% for government funding. You are saying the opposite. But I said, listen, the innovation happens at the small and medium companies level, and they are not good at submitting reports which you want, but they're good at innovating and making products. So both got introduced. Thanks to that, when this Armenia-Azerbaijan war was the first time drones were used, and because of that, when the government started looking around, they saw that we were on the verge of making this counter drone. We started in 2018 developing, because in a drone we felt that it was going to be overcrowded. So we went and looked at the ecosystem. We said there was nobody working in anti-drone systems, and we started focusing, putting a lot of money in it. And fortunately, because of the IDDM policy that Mr. Parikar had proposed, the order went to Zen Technology. We were L1. There were a lot of Israeli companies, German companies. Their costs were out of whack, the prices they quoted. We got it. We delivered it. It was used. It was also used in G20 summit. So we have today a product in counter drone system that are absolutely world class. So so now we are trying to this. I think it's going to be very, very important. And the drones, we know that they come in now. They are not one or two drones coming, but they'll come in swarms.
Literally in swarms.
So the counter drone
hundreds
technologies
of them,
are being adopted, and they're being evolved very rapidly to the changing requirement, which is required. If you don't own the IP, you have the supply chain, you have the manufacturing, but nothing is happening. You're working for a threat that was yesterday. But here you have to evolve on a daily basis, which design and development ownership helps us in achieving. Sandeep, over to you.
Marshal Chopra, this point that Gaurav made, and the fact that you can't depend on external supplies anymore, and we're literally at a crisis point now. It's an emergency. What is it that you think we need to do to take this forward, to make it, a crisis management of sorts, if you can put it that way, to ensure that we become defense reliant, at least in very key areas in the next 5 years?
Sandeep, I must mention that today 60% of the armed forces of Russian origin, nearly 10% of Indian Air forces of Israeli origin. So there are issues whenever a war starts anywhere. We know that Russian supplies have slowed down a little. Even Israeli supplies will be affected because the war is continuing, unending. So there are issues that we need to. There are some critical technologies which the government of India has already, flagged. And I'm not talking of the new technologies. I'm not talking of AI, cyber, electronic warfare, but certainly, an aero engine, for example. There are. If we want to put the global high table, we have to sort of getting an aero engine. Now, whether we join up with joint venture with a foreign engine manufacturer, because there are only 5 major foreign engine manufacturers in the world.
Right.
So we have huge orders. We've got a huge armed forces order. There's a huge order with the civil. We have ordered close
Civil
to
aviation, yes.
new airliners. So these engine manufacturers must come and set up shop over here.
Yes.
As well as, I must also mention that the wars in the past in Iraq or in Afghanistan and now in Hamas, Israel is uncontested environment. Of course, in Ukraine, because the NATO has joined up with them, it's become a contest.
Yes.
So if a war in a contested environment is carrying on for 2 years, you can understand that how much of supply chain we require, the amount of ammunition, the munitions that you will require, the drones. And on drones, one point I want to just add that we are in with Drone Federation of India. We know there are more than 100 startups. We know what are they doing.
Right.
Still, there are a large number of critical components in drones which we must make in India. We are importing them. We are assembling drones. The drones are already being sought by the armed forces.
Right.
So there is a need in drones to start manufacturing the components, the battery, the power pack, the sensors, the rotors, etc.
Right.
So there is a lot of action that needs to develop here also, yes.
Absolutely.
News9 Plus. Download now.